Hey Wastelanders, this is Gary. So today I'm going to go over and review this little Chonk by Rosecraft blades. The company is fairly new to me. I don't know a lot about it. I only know a few of their knives. They have a modern line, which I've seen a lot of, but I still haven't seen the traditional line. So that's me being lazy and not going to the website, because I don't know who carries Rosecraft blades. I think I only found them on one site, Blue Creek Knives, I believe. That's the only place that I could find them. So, but I first heard of them during Blade Show 2022, and they're based out of Tennessee, I believe. So let's go over some of the specs of the knife. I'm gonna give you the traditional reviews I do. This is designed by Hawkins Rose. So I found that on Blue Creek Knives website, I believe. So this features a stone washed and satin blade. So the flats are all satin or stone washed, and the grind, and I believe this part is all satin. So they probably did the stone washing, then they did the grind. So it's out of D2 steel, and it's a flat grind. And this one features G10 scales and steel liners, steel red liners. And I believe the liners, what makes it heavy, because the liners are not, they're not weight relieved. So this is a little heavy knife. And the liners are unnested, of course. I would rather see them nest, but you wouldn't get this nice red. So that's probably why they went with that. But I believe I've seen this in a couple other colors. I know I saw it in a white aluminum, but I don't remember the other color other than the black G10. So sorry. It features both a thumb stud flipper. Like, I was trying to flip this the traditional flipper, and I failed it a lot because this detent is pretty much non-existent. I mean, it's a little bit there, but it's still failed. Yeah, I can't get it to consistently flip with this flipper. Use a thumb stud, it opens every time, mostly if you don't fuck it up like I did on camera. But if sometimes the flipper runs into my finger if I don't make way for it. But it's a great thumb stud flicker, but not necessarily a flipper tab flipper. So if it was me, if I bought this knife, and if I really wanted to put some extra money in this knife or try to do it myself, I would remove the flipper tab, because it's pretty much worthless on this knife, if you ask me. But the thumb stud works great. So of course it's a nice Wharncliffe shape. It's a liner lock, if I didn't say that. The lockup's about 50%. And when I got it, it was off center, but I realized the pivot had came loose. This knife is a Apex pass around, by the way, so the pivot was kind of loose. I tightened the pivot up, but it didn't make the flipper tab act any better. So, but of course it's a good thumb stud flipper. Anyway, I had to look up because I can't take it apart, and I tried to look it in there, and I believe I think it says it's on ceramic bearings, but I can't confirm that. It's on some kind of bearings, I think. Features a lanyard option, generous lanyard option, and this is kind of cool. So it's a deep carry pocket clip, and it's a left hand and right hand friendly. So, you know, pretty cool. Yeah, this flipper is really bad. So let's move on. And I did these measurements and the weights myself. This handle is exactly 4 inches, and the blade's exactly 3 inches. The cutting edge is 2 3/4 inches. It has like a sharpening choil and a big flipper tab, so it takes up the 1/4 inch. Overall, it's 7 inches. The handle thickness is 0.65 inches, so it's over a 1/2 inch. It's pretty chunky, or 16.7 millimeters. And the blade thickness is 0.15. I usually got pocket knives. The average is 0.12, so it's a little bit thicker of a blade, or 3.7 millimeters. The edge thickness is 0.027 or 68 millimeters, and the weight is a big whopping 5.93 ounces. And that's probably because there's no weight relief in there. Or 168 grams. So I'm not going to talk a lot about this knife. For me, I don't want to say I don't like it, but it's not a knife for me. It's too chunky. I could see it being a tackle box knife, but I think it's $58. I don't want to pay $58 for a knife that is inevitably a beater, and I think this is a beater style knife, and I think it's too expensive for me. I mean, it has a fancy pivot bushing or whatever you call that, surround, and it's red in color. But overall, this knife is not for me. And I'm going to show you some comparisons just for size. This reminded me of this Cold Steel Mini Tough Light, and you can see some resemblance, but I broke the tip off of this Cold Steel, I believe. Yeah, oh yeah. Maybe I fixed it by sharpening it out, but at one time I broke the tip off this. This probably shows it. I don't know. I don't use this much anymore, but I had to dig it out because it just reminded me. This reminded me of this. So let me drag a couple other knives out here. I'm going to show you it compared to it's compared to, what do you call it? The fin rear. The Canset fin rear, so you can see it size wise. So it's not a long. I mean, it's only a 2 3/4 inch blade. And let me show you a little knife besides this this Mini Tough Light. You can see this size knife. So this knife, for me, it's super expensive, and I wouldn't have bought it because it's too expensive. But this knife is a little workhorse. I've used this knife more than I would use this knife because it's so small and you could choke up on it, but it's still a little workhorse knife. It's not a knife that would wear good in the pants. I mean, it takes up a lot of pocket space, almost 6 ounces. So, and I think what bothers me the most is the flipper tab is just, I don't really like the flipper tab at all. And being there, it's always like I use the thumb stud, but I'll fuck it up flipping it because the thumb, or you have to have to keep your finger away from the flipper tab that's sort of big and sort of awkward looking, you know. I don't like flipper tabs that just, they automatically point down. I think flipper tabs generally are parallel or up. So like I could get it work sometimes if I push button it, but it's not consistent. So yeah, so I push button it that time and it still it wasn't, it broke the detent, but it broke the lockup, but it still didn't lock up. But if you are consistently removing or giving a wide berth to this flipper tab, you can open it with the thumb stud. So it's openable just by using the thumb stud, pretty much 95% of the time. So it's not a bad looking knife. I think they should have spent a little bit extra money and weight relieve the liners. It's just too heavy for me for such a little knife. You know, it's a little chunk, but you know, if they come out with a big chunk, I would expect a big chunk to weigh 6 ounces. I would expect a little chunk to weigh maybe 3 ounces. I don't know. Anyway, guys, this is my review. I'm trying to not be negative. It's just not a knife for me. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go. Take care, Wastelanders.